The book centers on a white family, the Swarts, which incidentally in Afrikaans means the blacks, although it's also a very common surname. And I chose this particular family because, to my mind, they're very typical of white South Africa, quite similar to my family, but similar also to many other white South African families that I grew up with and amongst. I got the first idea for the book in a conversation with a friend when he was telling me about the 4 family funerals he'd attended of his parents, his brother, his sister. And I realized I had read a lot of books about families, but never one that was structured in this particular way, around 4 funerals. I liked the idea of structuring the book in this way because it allows me to explore what I think of as the main theme of the book, time and the passage of time. Time is the medium through which everything changes, no? The individual members of the family, their faces, their lives, their values, but it's also the medium through which the larger nation, South Africa, changes as well. And I'm sure I don't need to explain that South Africa has had some very dramatic changes in the last 40 years. So the fact that the book is built around these funerals, each of them in a different decade of South African history, means that the big dramatic changes that each individual experiences and the country register because each time the curtain goes up on a new act of the drama, it's a different situation to the act before, and the reader has to kind of fill in the blanks and imagine what's taken place in the intervening years. The title of the book, The Promise, comes from a very specific episode that a friend recounted to me. Something from his own family, where his mother on her deathbed had asked the family to promise that they would give a broken down house on a useless piece of land to the black woman who had looked after her, the mother, through her last illness. And the family promised to do it and then didn't follow through on their promise. So this was a situation that I knew I could adapt slightly to the situation of the Swart family, and that I could bring up as a recurring theme through the 4 sections of the book. In each funeral, of course, the family comes together, and then this issue recurs and is not dealt with until the last episode of the book. You know, in another sense, this question of land, who owns the land, who used to own it, who's going to own it in the future, this is a very central political question for South Africa right now. So I was aware of that. And of how important the theme is for, my country. But in a much more personal way, of course, it relates specifically to this family and this situation. It's not really possible to tell any South African story without taking history into account. I wish that wasn't the case. I would love to belong to a national literature that can explore any theme, a love story, for example, without having to look in the direction of politics and history. But I guess South African history has been so convulsive, so violent, so strong, and is still in process, that in fact the past is not past yet, to quote the American writer William Faulkner. It was not clear to me from the very beginning that I would be painting a larger portrait of South African society. In the beginning, my interest was really in the family and in how time had affected these particular people. But then when I meditated on it, as one has to if you're writing a novel, I realized that if I widened the window just a little bit, that I could show South Africa in the background and how very different it has become under each of the 4 last presidents. And, the changes that we've undergone register as a kind of a reigning spirit of the time. I try to call up this reigning spirit and give a feeling for the reader of how each decade has felt to me, and I guess for a lot of other South Africans too. I feel close probably to the two central characters of the book, Amor, the youngest daughter of the family, and Anton, her older brother. I mean, they are the two protagonists or antagonists, depending on how you see them. But there's a little bit of me in each of them, maybe not exactly reproduced, but their essential quality is something that I relate to. But you know, as an author, you cannot create any character without drawing on some aspect of yourself. So, you know, even the more peripheral characters, the characters I don't like, they do represent something about me. Otherwise, you can't bring a quality of truth to a character. So I'll admit that I'm many people, and some of them are in my novel.